Beloved star, welcome. Welcome to Immortal Starlight Pod. Immortal Starlight Dream Pod, number 13. And I'm recording this one. I thought as I made the pod I would make some mostly as pure audio because it's magically easy for me to create that and communicate with you. And I wanted to keep this very flowing, very regular. But some I thought in advance I would create also as videos, and they can be on my website and on the YouTube channel also. So this one, I'm doing that. It is both. You can listen or watch, whichever you prefer. And it's lovely to meet in this way too. And to be together. And so Immortal Starlight Pod number 13, I would love to share with this. So this year of angels that we are within, this new world, new light, new being that we are as we move forward in this time. And I'm hearing many say, and I'm experiencing myself, that there is this, with this new wave of light, there is this emptiness that also underlies of the way that it has been and the selves that we have been simply ceasing to exist, ceasing to function. And yet with that, there is also this beautiful new existence that is our state of angelic and starlight creation, that is this continuum of a deeper sphere of creation within the self, and the forging of our realities of the first, of the elder light, of the immortal starlight, of the love that we are. And this way, while being the most natural way of being for our greater soul and self, is a learning, a relearning, and a learning as never before to be this way in our physical expression upon this earth. So through the great ages of Earth's evolution, through the great starlight eras that have been foundation upon foundation has built, that makes it possible for us to be in presence here in our angelical, our multidimensional, our starlight forms, in these incredible human expressions, in this physical expression. And all of those foundations for that potentiality have been built through the great starlight ages that have been the great processional cycles of Earth, her galactic alignments, the phases of illumined creation, and the metaphysics of possibility through each of those eras. So with this time and with this moon, with this peach moon as it is in the Elven teachings, I have been sharing of Ariandeli and this Elven city of light. So through this 7 moons, and I think we are 4 or so of the moons into this, the Elven cities of light have been returning through this last wave, that have been within the inner earth through this last great age of forgetfulness, and this wave of density in which the cities of light of the earth, her spheres of immortal starlight creation, her lands that have existed through many an aeon, have as it were separated out from the physical dimensional experience that's been in continuum here, as it were. And for many of us, we have been experiencing both and a movement back and forth between the different earths, as it were. And what is happening now, especially in this year with the return of the keys of power, where the codes of our physical reality are being forged now from the immortal starlight angelical self and reality, we are able to forge our physical dimensionality, our physical creations from that continuum. That we are experiencing, the potentiality for these cities of light, these lands, to be rising back again through us. And with that, there is the return of so much. But just to reference this moment that we're in, what I love to say is that for me, part of the quality at any rate is of this extraordinary lightness, almost as though there isn't very much in some way, and instead, in the sense of the fullness that existed with the movement between the different dimensions that seem to exist up until this shift into this next great wave of light that we're within. That before there was a fullness with this movement between dimensions and the way that they were ordered through the spheres of greater linearity, of separation and dimensional design, if you like, of those earths, of the galactic planes, of the spheres of creation at all different levels of light being phased out and through. So we may have experienced ourselves traveling to somewhere and experiencing the distance, the transit between those spheres. And that created a kind of fullness and a dynamic of movement that in itself was a beautiful evolution to expand and to remember into. And while there is still transit, there is still movement between realms and the dimensions of our multidimensional self. It's not with that fullness of the highways, if you like, of the moment, of that being patterned out through the sphere of the quantum energy. It's more as though there is this sense of luminosity arising within emptiness, of the quantum sphere of being with which we are creating, simply emergent in the now as that which we are, as source, dreaming forth within the void, mystery, the spaciousness of being. And it can feel, that can, I think, can bring on those feelings of not enough, because it feels so light, so strangely light, and as though in some ways there's not much. And yet there is more than ever before, because of the depth of the reality, the availability for what is presenting within us to become physical, to become our dimensional experience and reality here. And I think the shift point is really to go out of that feeling of not enough, or where's it all gone, or what on earth is going on, to really trusting, being with and being present to. I've been speaking about this in the last pod also, and a few times, the absolute enoughness of that which is presencing within us and as us. Really dropping into that, this beautiful sequencing of angelical and starlight consciousness in this quantum divine now moment that just is perfectly presenting. And while we might not have that kind of map of multiplicity in the same way in the moment, the way that it felt before, see if this resonates for you. This is how I'm experiencing it. That is gone, but that was there, but at the same time there wasn't the same immediacy and potentiality of creation, depth of creation, even though there was more, in a sense of fullness or more. And instead there is this extraordinary lightness, but a beautiful, as I learn to navigate this, it is like learning to move in a new way, learning to navigate a new reality, trusting what is presenting in this spaciousness, this lightness, what is moving in and through, and being deeply present to that, letting it unfurl, gift itself. And I'm finding the teachings of Ariandeli incredible, the Elven city of light, in relation to this, because Ariandeli is the city of the elder crystals, seated in the first great starlight age of earth, of Ele Eshim, as the Elven remember this, the great lighting of the lamps, the inflowing of angelic and starlight creation, the duplication of the celestial lands, the home worlds of beyond this physical universe, creating as earth, the home worlds arriving, seeding, co-creating with earth. And as I explained in the last pod, as they become earth, they alter and co-create with her, change from their pure form from beyond and become the homelands of the organical worlds of nature that we experience here. And all of this is seeded long since. These are the great architectures of earth, of our mountains, our forests, the oceans, the lands, the continents. There's been much movement since that first great age, but all was seeded then, and it is those home worlds, those homelands, those celestial dimensions that underpin the worlds, the lands of Earth. And as we come back to true belonging with Earth, we are coming back to our residence, our belonging, our dwelling therein, to those heavenly, divine seated homeworlds, homelands, and all of the beings that have flowed through that, you know, the trees, the plants, the flowers, the animals, so much has come through these gateways that belongs now and has long since belonged to and of Earth. And when in the shamanic traditions we speak of spirit animals and allies, and then plants that are plant guides, our allies, and for those seers and visionaries who see that in one another's aura, you can see the continuum within them, say of the rose or the deer or the oak tree. We see these affinities as we open up multidimensionally. We see how each one is actually seeded with spheres of being that go beyond their human form and yet interweave, interlink with their being here, with who we are. We each are these beautiful tapestries woven of these expressions that go through lifetimes, incarnations, and are also part of our now moment presencing. That those are also beings and dimensions seeded through our home world, that inflowed through our own spheres of creation here as we first created here. And so Ariandali carries us back to the elder or master crystal with which we first seeded all of this, brought this in. So the elder crystal incredibly encodes all of this, as the crystals have this capacity so to do, and especially the elder crystals, the master crystals of the first time, the first light, that while in a sense they are a finite expression, a finite physical expression, they can encode and do encode infinite amounts of information. So as those crystals form, and their coherent lattice forms to hold exactly the correct coordinates, to be the correct coordinates and lattice for the informational flow of your home world, so much can be wrought here from what is held within that master crystal. It, holds the information in a way that enables, say, the trees of your home world to become the great forests here of Earth. And for that to be echoed from that crystal, communicated vibrationally, and to expand exponentially through the fields of Earth. So truly the lands arise from the elder crystals. Truly the cities of light arise from the elder crystals. Truly our home, our dwellingness, our residence upon Earth arises from the elder crystals. And so in this first great starlight age, I've been very much with the remembering of the elder crystal, that my own I am presence seated in that first age of light, and being one of the creator souls who carries that remembrance, who's always been woven with Earth from the beginning. That is the sense of self that flows within and through me, is that remembrance, as with so many of us carrying this sense of having been here in some way with Earth from her earliest starlight beginnings, her first creation, and that our care, our knowing, our co-creation with her is from that level. And yet each and every one of us is that divine angel of creation, is that immortal and elder and starlight soul that carries the beginning within, the beginning of all worlds, all dimensions, whether we're a new star soul to this Earth, whether we've been here from the beginning or no, we all carry the potentiality to be of this elder and angelical first light of creation, and to synchronize with these heavenly lands of Earth, with her very essence, with all that she is. And so that's part of the Elven heritage, and the calling of my own work is to simply hold this Elven remembrance in the absolute trust that for those who carry this also, that it is nourishing and inspires your own deeper spheres of remembrance, and also that for those who don't necessarily carry specifically the elven heritage, that it brings a beautiful holding and amplification of this sense of starlight belonging, of the reality of earth that we indwell within, being revealed through the elven heritage and the elven DNA within each one of us that can be activated and become part of our enlightenment and becoming in this great age of light that we are entering. And so with the elder crystals, I've been seeing, to come to this now, there's been this stilling into witnessing what it means for that first pulse, that first age, that first moment that is this now moment, right now, of the angelical light of that which we are physicalizing, becoming, of physical expression here and now. And I've been witnessing that through the sphere of my own elder crystal and within the realm of Ariandali. And as I've been witnessing that, I so often see within the depths of the crystal the leaves twining, beginning to form, of the trees of Ephalianon, of whence I come, forming within the depths of the crystal. And I feel this profound interconnection between the trees and the crystals. And always it seems to me that their designs are intrinsic to the whole of creation through all realms. Not to earth alone do the trees and the crystals belong, but to galactic and stellar realities, also to those beyond our physical universe and plane, realities that have already ascended through the cycles of physicalization and come into their starship again, their full immortal starlight expression. And through all of those planes, I witness the reality of the tree and of the crystal, these forms that are intrinsic, it feels to me, at all levels of reality, and are part of the key holders of the dawn, the key holders of the dawn. And as a dear beloved Starlight friend spoke, and if you're listening, you'll remember this moment, saying of this arrival, of her arrival here into avatar presence, of the one who I am arriving here. She said, as I arrive, my first friends are the trees. So I arrive here and everything's new. I am walking this earth as never before, and in this new reality, my first friends are the trees. And it's such a beautiful thing to remember, and in this time of extraordinary lightness, of spaciousness, of the dissolution of everything as it's been, even multidimensionally, the alteration of the spheres, that there is this presencing of the trees with us. They are part of this first and primary reality of the new earth. And it's so fascinating to witness Tolkien's own tale of that. So I know with the Elven pod, I come in and out of speaking about Tolkien and his work. It's been a beautiful space to, honour the extraordinary record that he brought through. And when I'm listening to the elder crystals and I see this arrival, for me it's the golden oak trees, oaken-like trees of Ephalianon, Avalon, and as they flow through in flow, I am guided to feel also different layers. I'll come back to Tolkien in just a second. Twofold. One, at the moment, I have this very strong relationship taking place with the tree of the sun. And I long since received this and wrote of this in the silver wheel of the elder tree of the dawn at the heart of the realm of the sun. If you travel into the realm of the sun, you'll experience the golden tree of the sun there at the heart, at the center. And as I come to her, to the tree, you may feel experience as a his, as a her. As I come to the tree of the sun, dripping with these delicate sunfire blossoms, there is this sense of a tree of immortal starlight, of worlds beyond, that is part of the heart, the center, the source creation of the sun itself. And being present there with this tree of the sun has been an extraordinary sustenance in these times of this shift. I come there in the morning when I wake up, feel this emptiness of what exists now, the coordinates altering so deeply, connect with the core of the earth and then with the realm of the sun, and coming as in prayer to that tree of the sun that connects to the great central sun of all worlds, spirit, that great spirit, lighted intelligence of all worlds, and coming into prayer with the concordance of angelical realms of creation, with this tree of the sun, and just making that prayer that all that I bring through is the inflow of my home world in alignment with the new dawn of earth. And I'm finding it such sustenance to be with this tree. And then there's another kind of tree I'd love to speak of, because through my own lineage it's really the golden tree that shines so strong from Efalion on the golden oaken trees therein. That also I've been connecting in the now moment with the frankincense tree, especially at the moment. I'm moving into connecting with the myrrh tree now, but a tree of this earth. So the trees, the physical trees of this earth, that are the ancestors of those trees seeded in the first time in the earliest light. And they are with us here all around, so too undergoing their own transfiguration, ascension, shift into receiving these crystalline and Christed light codes of full presence once more. And it's so beautiful to work with their essences. And I'm not living in the forest now, I'm living in Avalon, and it's beautiful, beautiful frequencies here, but it's not, as you all know, the same. If you experienced the forest, the true physical forest, it's not the same. And I find that working with the resins and the burning the resins and the herbs of the trees, of the flowers, of the plants, and especially I've been tuning into that resin that's produced by the frankincense tree, that this is such a gift by which the trees bestow this golden essence of returning to this first light of earth, and teaching us what this tree consciousness is throughout creation, this incredible strength of root, grounding, anchoring, and the trunk that connects the spheres, and the branches that reach beyond and beyond to all that flows through from an infinite beyond. This incredible form of the trees, and that we too can mirror this form and be this filament of lighted architecture that flows between worlds and is as yet profoundly anchored still. It's an extraordinary facet, the tree, of our own multidimensional presence and being, and reminding us of who we can be. And so I find it incredible to be with the frankincense, to be with the resin, the gift of this tree of earth within my space while I'm not in the forest, and just to fill my temple with this resin and the illumination that flows forth. And so I speak of the tree of the sun, the immortal starlight trees long since seeded here, and also of the physical trees of this earth. But coming back now to Tolkien, what's so fascinating is that through his own mythology and remembrance spoke of this interesting flow between crystal, between tree, the lighting of the lamps in the time of the first light, the time of creation. And I was amazed as I looked back through his writings to see the correlation with my own Elven remembrance and what is flowing through. So he speaks of this, which I think is very kindred to the hour that we're in. The reason I'm speaking of this first age is because I feel it mirrors this phase of the dawn that we're within, the lighting of the lamps, this first age, the inflowing duplication of the celestial realms, the home worlds. We're within this once more. And so, he speaks of the two lamps that were created, and Vada, the Lady of the Stars, the goddess of the stars, filled the lamps, and Manwë, God connected with the airs and with the eagles, hallowed them, and the Valar set them upon high pillars, more lofty far than are any mountains of the later days. One lamp they raised near the north of Middle-earth, and it was named Ilwyn, and the other was raised in the south, and it was named Ormal, and the light of the lamps of the Valar flowed out over the earth, so that all was lit, as it were in a changeless day. And so this, I think, is very correspondent to the formation of the elder crystals, that inflow of the liquid plasma filaments of light, starlight, forming that liquid flow of light that formed the lamps that were then forged by Aule, if my pronunciation is right there. He wrought at the prayer of Ivana the two mighty lamps, yes, and then Vada filled them. Vada filled them, the Lady of the Stars filled them with the starlight, the immortal starlight. And so there is this forging, in the same way that the crystals, are forged layer upon layer, their lattice forged and formed to hold that light, immortal starlight of the realms beyond. And this happens through that patience, that listening, that trust. There is not much yet, but every part that is gifted is more than enough if we're willing to be present to this, to be present, to let that part of the lattice form deeply, completely. That patience, that presence, that trust with what we're gifted. And these lamps were then destroyed in the cycles of Tolkien's mythology. They were destroyed. And there comes next, what interests me though, is how this correlation between what comes next is the era of the trees, following the lamps, the inflowing light of the lamps and the forging as they were wrought, the holding of the lamps. There is the age of the trees, and it reminds me of this moment where in the elder crystals in Ariandeli I see that forming of the leaves of light, the twinings of stems forming within the crystals. And it's so beautiful, the description of the two trees. I will share this and then come to the closing of this Immortal Starlight Pod 13. So, yeah, the Valar, the great angelical creation beings, came together and they sat around the green mound. And Yavanna, who is the goddess of earth, hallowed it. And she sat there long upon the green grass and sang a song of power, in which was set all her thought of things that grow in the earth. And Nienna thought in silence and watered the mound with tears. In that time the Valar were gathered together to hear the song of Yavanna, and they sat silent upon their thrones of council. And the ring of doom near to the golden gates of Valmar, and Yavanna Kemantari, goddess of earth, sang before them, and they watched. And as they watched, upon the mound there came forth two slender shoots, and silence was over all the world in that hour. Nor was there any other sound save the chanting of Yavanna. Under her song the saplings grew, and became fair and tall, and began to flower, and thus there awoke in the world the two trees of Valinor. Of all things which Yavanna made they have most renown, and about their fate all the tales of the elder days are woven. And to describe these trees, the one had leaves of dark green that beneath were as shining silver, and from each of his countless flowers a dew of silver light was ever falling, and the earth beneath was dappled with the shadows of his fluttering leaves. The other bore leaves of a young green like the new opened beech. Their edges were of glittering gold. Flowers swung upon her branches in clusters of yellow flame, formed each to a glowing horn that spilled a golden rain upon the ground, and from the blossom of that tree there came forth warmth and a great light. Telperion, the one, was called in Valinor, the silver tree, and Silpion and Ninquelote and many other names, but Laurelin, the other, was the gold, and Malin Alda and Colurian and many names in song besides. And just to describe how the trees functioned within creation, in 7 hours the glory of each tree waxed to full and waned again to naught, and each awoke once more to life an hour before the other ceased to shine. Thus in Valinor twice every day there came a gentle hour of softer light, when both trees were faint and their gold and silver beams were mingled, Telperion was the elder of the trees, and came first to full stature and to bloom. And that first hour in which he shone, the white glimmer of a silver dawn, the Valar reckoned not into the tale of hours, but named it the opening hour, and counted from it the ages of their reign in Valinor. Therefore, at the 6th hour of the first day, and of all the joyful days thereafter, Telperion ceased his time of flower, and at the 12th hour Laurelin her blossoming. And each day of the Valar and Aman contained 12 hours, and ended with the second mingling of the lights, in which Laurelin was waning, but Telperion was waxing. And so it goes on, but I will stop my reading there just to highlight this incredible dance of the silver and the gold within the first light of creation, and how fascinatingly that the silver forms that opening hour counted before time begins, the silver light of a white dawn. That the way around? Let me just double check. The white glimmer of a silver dawn. And I found that so fascinating, because it always felt to me, as I was gifted the silver wheel, it was like that blueprint of the timeless, of what is gifted before time begins, before the time of the sun and the moon, before it is all set in motion, and the silver comes first. And so too it is written here by Tolkien. And then the arrival of the gold. And then they intermingle in the cycles of the hours of creation on a daily basis. And it's so interesting to note in our own energy field the cycle of our own elder starlight creational cycle through each day. For instance, I'm creating this, I'm speaking with you now in the morning. It's just the last moments of the morning, and I know that for me I'm still in my silver hour, but after I've had my lunch, that will be done. There will be a kind of waning as those silver and those gold lights begin to intermingle. And there is then the inception of the gold phase. And then I find I build towards a wave towards again into the evening. And yeah, so see how that feels for you in terms of your rhythms of starlight creation. But our angelical and our starlight soul does have its own rhythms of creation, and it's so beautiful to attune to this and to trust those white glimmers of a silver dawn when they move within you, to pay attention to the stirrings, to treat as enough, if that's your record that you write or that you create from in any sphere of your life, to make that the moment, the honouring of the elder angelic starlight creation that is moving through you, that is the foundations of the dawn, that is the arising of the crystalline layers and foundations of the dawn, the arising of the elder trees of the starlight earth once more, the return of the sacred lands. And so, yeah, I spoke those because what is so fascinating is also as the age of the trees comes to completion, and so too they are destroyed in the great cycles by Melkor, that it is the light of the trees that, so this is in I've got this book now, I was just reading from the Silmarillion, Tolkien's Silmarillion. This I found in a Glastonbury shop, an Atlas of Tolkien. It's by David Day. It's just a lovely little thing, and it breaks down the ages and the atlas, the lands of Tolkien. It's a little less dense than the Silmarillion, which is it's quite a wade to get through that. But in this part, so I just opened this randomly, guided yesterday or something. So it said, although the trees of the Valar had been destroyed, the Valar, Yavanna and Nienna coaxed from their scorched ruins a single flower of silver called Isil the Sheen, and a single fruit of gold called Anor the Fire Golden. This flower and this fruit were placed in great vessels that became the sun and the moon, which were carried across the skies by Maiar spirits. And it is said that with the rising of the sun there came the awakening of men. So began the ages of the sun, in which the race of mortal men flourished and spread all over the lands of Middle-earth. So I bring that full circle with that tree of the sun that I've been witnessing, and it's so beautiful to feel the layers of this deeper remembrance fusing together, because so true that light of Laurelin, the golden tree of first and elder starlight creation, it was the fruit of Laurelin that seeded that tree of the sun and became the sun that shines in our skies, which was not yet present in that age of the starlight that came before. So there is great and beautiful support for us in the realm of the sun, for the phase we are in. That's really where I come to, and I was really guided. The title for this Immortal Starlight pod was called The Tree of the Sun, that I was gifted in guidance. I didn't say that at the beginning, but now at the end it becomes partly apparent why. That, yeah, this I would recommend as a source of support in this new light, this new reality that we are, and to find with that the synchronization, yes, to the heart of creation itself and the concordance of the angelical realms inflowing for the dawn, but most especially with your own homeworld frequency that inflows now, the elder crystals, the elder trees of your home world inflowing, bringing both foundations for the dawn, but also great foundations for you in this now moment. And with that, you may feel that there is a lineage of trees upon this earth, the ancestors of those elder trees of your home world seated here, that can really support you at this time. So as I've been working with the frankincense, so too you may find there is a tree whose essence can really, really support you at this time. So I'll close this pod, Elven Starlight Pod 13, and I will open the Elven Aurora with the new moon again. I think that will be at the end of next week. So if you do want to walk within the Elven Aurora and feel the beautiful support of these kindred realms of remembrance and awakening flowing in, you are so, so welcome then. And yeah, it's come round so fast. I will open it. I'll try to at the time of the new moon always, so that whenever anyone begins and comes in, it is in these ceremonial flows of the silver light, that cycle of the moon, of the lunar cycle, lit with that white glimmer of the silver dawn and supporting, the divine flow of our starlight creation and co-creation in the now. So much love, and may you have a most beautiful time. I do feel like I'm getting used to it now, how it's working. It's beginning to settle, beginning to get a little more familiar, more stable, how this is now, how this is in this time. And my greatest prayer is that it is so for you also. You have so much to bring, and may your week be truly blessed. So much love. Bye for now.